Greetings, anyone who may be watching this recording later on. I'm Paul Hank from the Historic Centerville Society. This is The Community, an African-American family built in Bull Run by Crystal Gaskins. This program will be starting soon, although we are not quite ready to start yet. We're trying to solve some technical difficulties. So if you're seeing this, please stand by. Excuse me.
I'm gonna try switching computers.
Hello, Julia. I see you have joined us. We are still getting set up, trying to solve some technical difficulties. We will be starting soon.
You. How you doing, Aaron?
Thank you, sir. Yes. I'm going to leave this right here for now. I'll work on the technical difficulties. And while we wait for more people.
Maybe. If that doesn't work, try entering this number into the browser and then just try that next step, see if it works. Okay, all right, good luck to you. Hope it works.
Thank you.
Hey, how are you, my friend?
My friend. My cousin.
My cousin.
Was just talking about you.
Hey, how are you? Good to see you.
Dude, how's retirement doing you?
Hmm?
How's retirement?
So far, so good.
Okay.
Yeah. I've been like just as busy as ever. So
I know, when you retire, you get real busy.
yeah.
You don't understand that.
People are like, aren't you just like laying around? Got all that stuff to do. So
No, you can't lay around.
yeah.
Busy. Stay busy.
I still think about that time that you two were just famous, with that the
Channel
TV
7.
like went everywhere.
Yeah, to Africa. Did I tell? I told you my customers whose families were in Africa contacted them. It's like, have you seen this?
Isn't that like it still don't understand like some and
Right.
then something's like that just went viral. And it
It
just
did.
like it was great. You guys were famous all over.
For a while, yeah.
It was your fault.
Yeah.
He told me.
Ask for autographs.
Yeah.
He told me I was at Land Over Hills. I was like, I'm on my way.
Yeah.
I was flying down the highway trying to get the phone. I was
Yeah, I was at home. Yeah, but
no, you was at the doctor's
I was
office.
at the doctor's office. I'm.
Okay, so
you just grab something to eat before we start.
yeah.
Or you can wait after.
How's the family, Paul?
What's that?
How's the family?
They're good. Yeah. Yours?
Everybody's great. Hubby's in the corner.
Hey. Yeah. It's so good to see you.
Yep, everybody's good. Grandbaby will be 9 in January.
Oh,
I know.
Oh,
So
yes. Let's see if we're gonna do it any better with this version.
so I need a picture of my Harris family.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Wow.
We'll get somebody to take that today.
Okay.
Helps.
Can do.
So what's the focus of today?
Today is everybody. We hit everybody, so we are
There
going
you
to go into when they got free, to who was free, who was whose mama, where they hit and come run, where they hit and go run. The community building, the cemetery, the church, the one church, stemming from the church at Bull Run,
Mhm.
stemming down to Mount Olive Church as well. So, and even building. So,
What's that?
even when they built, they
Yeah.
helped build the road.
So we do we Nova Parks. I'm no longer Nova Parks, but Nova Parks, you know, you gotta, it takes a while.
It does.
Nova Parks has a historic mansion in Alexandria called the Carlisle House. It was built like 1752.
Listen for wrong.
And it was, so one of the programs that they do on a regular basis, like several times a year, is a genealogy program there to help people understand who worked at the house, who were the enslaved that were here. And it's very popular. And, you know, a place that old, there's a, that, you know, there's a big community that's connected there. Yeah.
So, let me see this. 1, 2, 4, 1. Paris, single.
Mhm.
Speaking.
Oh, sure, I can. Like, happy to.
You think you had your, the program on flash? drive?
No,
Oh,
that's why I was asking, do you have your copy?
oh, yeah, no, I have it. I just,
Okay,
I just, somehow when I tried to forward the message, it forwarded the error message instead of the original.
Food, why not eat food?
Yeah, we figured lunchtime, people needed to eat. Of course.
I don't know what that is.
Sorry, this is my work computer, so I don't have my personal email.
Uh-huh.
So I have to use my phone to send my,
I get it, trust me.
but I should have, Paul, were you, did you see me and try to ask to enter?
No, but I'll look.
I did see something pop up there a little while ago.
No, you're not on here yet.
Let's see, hang on, I guess. Yeah.
Ah, there you are.
All right.
One tree, many branches.
One in the program, but.
Hmm.
Well, if you look at the back of it, it's
Oh,
got
it's
the
right there.
email and
Okay.
phone number on the back. The fact that you missed the phone off.
That's okay. I saw that.
So,
The biggest thing was I was wondering if I had gotten a program. Because at first I wasn't on your program, and then it was like, no, see, this people need something to take with them.
Here we go.
So.
Cheryl, I show you're in, but microphone and camera are off.
Oh, I thought I turned them on.
So you got the red slash through them.
Okay.
Thanks for your patience, folks.
Who know that I can give you- Who has y'all's copy?
We're having trouble connecting to
Yeah.
Wi-Fi and getting all the technology to talk to each other.
yeah, that's a treasure trove.
Yeah, I just updated it and. So. And then I still have the one that I didn't buy, because I'm still adding stuff to it.
Really?
But this one is like 274 pages now. It's great.
I'll go with it. Yes.
It's just the history is just growing. Hello. That's no. The baby dash.
Hi, Linda.
Get a life. Told you I'm gonna give them your phone number. Hello.
Here we go.
Hi, this is the place. Come on in.
No, I won't be able to stay at home.
All right. That works out.
I saw you there for a moment.
Hey, can you see me?
I can see you.
Yes.
So there we are. Should I make you host? Okay.
Apologies, folks. We had trouble accessing the internet.
Sorry for this echo effect. Going to put an end to that very soon.
We might not be. There's speakers you might see on the. Here we go.
No,
So you're gonna want to aim
Was that
before.
no, so.
I have to look at the back of the picture. I have.
Some of them, some of them.
Closed style.
Yeah.
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 Carrie
Mhm.
Gaskins was my boyfriend. She was named Sharp on it. They had a son named Irvin, that's my brother, called him Chico.
It was black and white. You could color that.
No, I
Right,
know, but
right,
you
right.
are, but they're not actually Gaskins. They were, no, they were adopted. So, great grandfather, his son Edward adopted a son. And those are where all of the Gaskins, so they're adopted, correct. They're adopted.
The old movies, when they first come out, after color,
Yeah.
you're like, you know, that's their, you know.
Yeah.
The red book, you're just like,
DNA, well, we knew that, but the DNA. So they're related to Harris.
I know.
I'm not coming.
She was going to, and she asked me to pick her up, but it was morning, she's not feeling well, so she said, "Yeah, I guess I'm not coming." She claimed to come. Yeah,
Judy was gonna come too.
yeah, that's what she told me, but I don't see her yet, I was kind of watching out the window of the little red car.
Oh,
Yeah, but she claimed to come, and my other sister Karen claimed to come also, so,
yeah. Even asked if she could see you.
yeah. So. Yeah.
Yeah. There's Judy. All the better. No, we
Oh.
this is all we could get.
Yeah. Somebody else did.
Somebody else has the big ones.
Why is this not?
Sometimes what we did before.
Thank you, yeah.
a question for somebody that might know. It is rumored that this library is closing. Is that true?
They are talking about moving it.
Yeah. Where would the location be?
I mean, I don't know that this is anything soon. I think it was just talking about general regard. So I don't think I have. Trinity Center, Trinity Center area.
This is what I see.
Okay, yeah. So what I need to do is get this on the on here.
So if you want to get some access to see what's on, just get his email address to share the file. That's what I was just saying. So we just need the email address and then she's going to share the file with you. And then I walk that cemetery.
Or if food has arrived, I could put someone. We got cheese and crackers.
Research.
Right, this is not.
Okay.
Once you get the lights on it.
Yeah. Don't eat no last one.
Yeah. Yes, I do.
And then the number of emails also on the back of your program.
Oh, very good. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
Do you also have a family reunion and do it?
They have not, they were discussing doing one. I think they're gonna change, the committees around, so I haven't heard.
Oh, okay, fine. Yes. Finally. Something.
Which part of the,
Yeah.
this part?
Partisan.
So,
Part of the,
no, I haven't done any research. Everything is, for me, is state and center.
yeah. And then this house,
It was pretty big for one of the families because they.
So I need to be able to tell this it's on 2. While Zoom is on 1.
I have to say hello to Santa's best friend. I'm hoping that I'm gonna get something this year. And clearly you have connections.
I do.
Oh, I know. I can tell.
No, hey, I've been. Well,
I don't know that I've ever seen anyone with more holiday spirit than you are displaying.
Okay. Very good. To 2.
yeah, so far for me.
Literally, like you're a head to tell. I love it.
Every day I go by that routine. That night when I got
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So.
We are getting closer all the time.
Can you now see this on your?
I'll check. No. I just see you and me.
No.
There. Oh. That's
Can you see this?
What I see. But I don't see the speaker. I don't see you. Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do. Because you're up here in the window. So I think you got it set up right.
I think we got it.
The only thing is you'd have to point it at Crystal.
Well. No, we'll just,
Or do a rear facing camera.
so can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Try again.
So if I'm talking, can you hear me from here?
Try again.
Can you hear me?
Not through the phone, no. Where's that stand-up microphone you have? Or are we relying on a camera?
Well,
on
it's
the phone?
this has a speaker
And a microphone, because I can hear you. I can hear myself on there.
Yes, I think we can hear you now.
so we're good. We're good. I think we've actually done it.
But do you want to point it toward Crystal rather than showing you the whole
I
time?
can do that, yeah.
Yeah. We are almost ready to begin.
That's why I'm gonna.
After resolving tremendous technical difficulties.
All right. Here we go.
And we actually, we tried this ahead.
Well, now it's a view of the ceiling.
Yeah.
It will be if you, where's Crystal gonna, you're gonna speak for a moment.
So can you see Crystal now?
Yeah, but let's just lower it a little bit, see? Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
And then,
All right, how about we get started?
all right. And then I will advance your slides.
Ladies and gentlemen, the long-awaited moment has arrived. Thank you very much for being here. My name is Paul Hank. I'm the president of the Historic Centerville Society, which is our sponsor for today. But we are not the star of the show. We have a very good speaker who's going to tell us a lot of things. I had it and then I lost it. But, obviously, we're not a professional Hollywood style production company. We're just kind of struggling along as best we can, trying to solve the problems, but we think we've got them solved now. So, our speaker is the owner and researcher of One Tree, Many Branches, and is a family genealogy research professional. And she's also a member of the Northern Neck Historical Society. But I'm not going to talk any longer because our next speaker is going to tell us all about the community, an African American family built in Bull Run. With no further ado, Crystal Gaston.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you all for coming. Thank the Centerville Historical Society, all the other members. Great to have everybody here today. So I am a family genealogy research professional. That is, people don't know, is I focus mainly on one side versus outside, but I'm also up behind it. So anybody that's looking for professional research for documents, family history, DNA analysis, to help you with your trees, I am your person to see. My family, well, I have quite a few family members here today. So we're going to jump into some bones of our history and see how our community within the Bull Run area. Sure. There we go.
I one tasker.
Why is it? There we go. All right. So we're beginning back in the time when there was slavery. So, like most African Americans here in Virginia, most African Americans were slaves. Our family is one of those families that were enslaved, but then ways changed, laws changed. The laws of 1882 for the state of Virginia changed, which allowed slave owners to emancipate their slaves. A lot of people didn't know this. Around 1888, a lot of the areas, especially in the northern neck of Virginia, so you can go to the next slide for me, please. So the northern neck areas consisted of Northumberland, Lancaster, and Westmoreland counties. This is just a tree of how the counties branched out. So if anybody has seen this, then you'll know how and when Fairfax County came to be in 1742. So the Carters, which were one of the most prominent landowners of their time, owned property from Northumberland County all the way straight through Stafford, Prince William, Fairfax, Fauquier, Loudoun, and Shenandoah valleys. These are African now? No, these are the slave owners. You can go to the next slide, sure. So we're starting with King Carter. Robert King Carter was the richest landowner of his time through property that was, there was a survey. And in the process of the survey, that they adopted property. Through that, any property that they claimed, they had to farm. So in order for them to farm 330 acres of property, they had to have slaves. So through that process, at his time, he had 200 and some slaves. His son, Robert Carter II, owned property, and his property was in the lower tract of Bull Run area. The father died first, as you see, he died in 1732. His father died not even a few months after him. So that left Robert Carter III to inherit property not only from his father, but from his grandfather. That property stemmed from Westmoreland County, Northumberland, Lancaster, and so forth. Well, going back to the 1888, as I was stating, that the taxes for Virginia went high. The land was depleted, so they could not use the property as they were using it for tobacco. So Robert Carter had an idea, and then that idea was to utilize the other properties that he owned. So on a vessel that he also had named the Mayflower, he sent them through the Rappahannock down to Shenandoah Valley, and then there were plantations started there. But then there were also plantations started in Prince William and Loudoun counties. So we have Leo Plantation, which was in the Loudoun County area, and Cancer Plantation of Prince William County. Now, a lot of people don't know this. Robert Carter III made his plantations after the Zodiacs. Have not found out why yet. It's an interesting research I have been digging into. Have not been able to figure that out. But there actually are 2 Cancer plantations. So there is one for Cancer, which is in Richmond County, Virginia, and then there's Cancer, Prince William County. Next slide. So of that lower tract that was owned by the Carters, there's Leo, there's Cancer, and then a lot of the area that we'll be speaking of today will be in this area and coming out into this area. This is Bull Run. I know that by the map. Coming into Centerville, going back into this way is where we'll be discussing today. Makes sense? So on August 1st of 1791, Robert Carter III sat down after a change of heart, after he spoke with his pastor, after he had been baptized in the Baptist faith. He decided that he did not want to own slaves. It was just not in his heart to do that. He wanted to free his people, especially when he found out that he had a brother that was enslaved, and that name would be Baptist Billy Burt. Baptist Billy Burt was the son of Mary, who was a slave, and that would have been, Mary would have been, they called the consort. Was it consort? Consort of Robert's father, Robert Carter Jr. So this is going to give us all the names of the plantations. So there's Cancer, Gemini, Forest Quarter, Coles Point. No, that's not Sagittarius. Then you got Aquarius, Scorpio, Capricorn, Libra, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Leo. Then you have Cancer in Prince William County, because you have the other Cancer, which was Richmond County. You've got Mr. John Pex, and then you've got Robert, it looks like Mitchell. Yeah. So these were the plantations here in the deed. The deed is actually, I've read it, it's 110 pages long. It breaks down the inventory. It is online, so anybody that wants to look that up, you can get with me. I can get you a link and you can read it. It is very detailed about a gradual deed that freed over 500 and some enslaved people starting in 1791. Next page, Shirley. Back one. There we
Sorry.
go. You're good. So, for January's schedule of 1791, it shows each number of people that were living at each plantation. Since it was a gradual deed of gift, there were more people born. So where initially when he did this was 509, at the end of the deed's life, it was close to 725 people. The issue was he had to move people out of the Northern Neck area. The plantation was just overflowing. Even though there were all of these other plantations and they had people there, the area was just too big. I mean, the area was too small, but it was just more people than what they could actually house in those areas. So in 1791, those that went to Leo Plantation, and they are highlighted, are our ancestors. And so we have George Harris and Rachel Harris. Now, in your pamphlets that I gave you, see, this is going to be educational. Okay. On the second page, right above where this particular deed is for the inventory list, it states, according to the list of names from Robert Carter's deed of gift, Leo Plantation inventory, Mary is listed as having 3 children. That was George Harris, Billy Burke, and Polly Harrison. Now, those names are very, very important, especially to our family, because as you have the Adam and Eve, these are the Adam and Eve. Oh, sweetie.
Hi, good to see you.
You too. But these are the Adam and Eves to where our family tree starts to grow and it starts to branch. So they were at Leo Plantation. Well, we remember where Leo Plantation was right there at that cusp. So at that time, they were all at Leo Plantation. The last little paragraph on page 1, it says there were 2 lists written and compared in November and December of 1783. Great concern arose when relocating the Harris family of George and Rachel, along with 6 of their children. George and Rachel also have 9 children by the time that they moved. So, what happened to George and Rachel after their freedom? I believe they died. We have not found any information in the family that they went elsewhere. What you got?
Any relation to the heresies of Clifton?
Yes. Yeah. So that came through a marriage. So I believe, and it's just my belief through research, that since the land for Cancer and Leo were patent, and that property was used for farming, and it was used to graze their animals. During that time, I believe that there was the start of the slave cemetery, and that cemetery would be what we call the Harris Cemetery today, which is at Bull Run Park. So now we've broken some ground. So It's a possibility in my belief that that's where they're buried. Within their 9 children, the one child that we will focus on today would be their daughter, Keziah. Now, Keziah was born around 1774, it says in Bull Run for her listing. She was the daughter of George and Rachel. Her farming duties were clearing the meadows. I thought this was neat because it's actually in the deed and it states, and she got to do this with her brother. And so to see them working together, because what Robert Carter III did was, as he's emancipating, he's renting out his properties. So he writes a lease of deed to a gentleman by the name of George Newman. And now George Newman is taking care of Leo Plantation. So this is who Keziah and her brother are working for while they're freed. And I wonder what they got paid. And from what we understand, they stayed there at Leo until the families were able to purchase some property. So Keziah's oldest son, which was Baptist Billy, him and his family stayed in Loudoun County. Eventually they moved to Ohio. George's family settled, well, George Jr. Keziah's son, Henry, settled in Bull Run. And her son, Jesse Harris, settled in Cub Run area. So, Cheryl, we're going to talk about Jesse Harris. Jesse Harris was born, they believe, between 1790 and 1793 in about Cancer Plantation. In an interview that they did for him for the Southern Claims after the war, he stated in his interview that he only lived a few miles from his home place all his life. So wherever that few miles was, I believe that they were at Cancer Plantation. Sorry, Leo Plantation. Get it backwards all the time. Leo Plantation. And then he did sharecropping for Landon Carter Jr., which was the son of Landon Carter Sr., which was the cousin of Robert Carter III. And he purchased property from Alfred Ball, and that would be Portese Plantation. And that was not too far. So all of these plantations were right there in the cusp, right there near the Bull Run battlefield, if everybody's familiar with that area. By 1860, Jesse Harris owned 262 acres of property. 3 Black men. Very impressive. But then you see his son owned 151 acres. His oldest son, Obed Harris, owned 62 acres of property. His cousin, Anthony Harris, owned 42 acres of property and then donated, and I got that wrong, with 16 acres of property for Cub Run from the Baptist Church. How it diminished through the years, we have not yet figured that out, because one record for the county says that it's supposed to be 3 acres. When we now talk to the county, they say we have an acre. What happened to the rest of the acreage? I'm still researching that. Moses Harris was the son of Henry Harris. Henry Harris was the other son of Keziah. John Robinson owned the property, which is now the rock quarry that sits up there on Lee Highway. That was 13 acres. Now, Jesse Harris married a woman he had 2 wives. The first wife was Anne. Anne has an interesting story through Fairfax County. On page 7 in your pamphlet, it tells the story about Anne. And Anne was very strong-willed. Okay. Anne went back and forth down that courthouse so many times. I think it raised a red flag with the county. Because she went down, at first she said that she was freed because of her mom. Then she went back down and she said she was freed by Robert Carter III near emancipation. Then there's a section in here that states that Anne had to leave Fairfax County. So she wanted to make sure that her children were in the Free Negro Registry. But then we see her, she came back to Fairfax County in the 1830s. And then somebody at the courthouse caught on what she was doing. And so then there's a note in the records for Fairfax County that basically states that, well, though she was here, she went there and they caught it. Somebody at the courthouse, because she was actually going to the same person all those other times. But this other person that worked on the courthouse was like, wait a minute. Let's go back to this deed. So that registry, footnote, page 12, down the bottom. This is what the county had to say about Anne. And I find it very interesting because, like I said, she went down there and she kept registering. It says, Anne Harris was registered in Book 2, number 44, in June of 1826. That registry, however, notes that she is the daughter of a woman emancipated by Robert Carter, which would make her freeborn. Notation here is that Anne Harris, herself emancipated by Robert Carter, is therefore a contradiction in the records. It's the only note. If you've ever seen this registry for the freed Negroes from Fairfax County, she's got the only note. The only one. And I thought that was just so fascinating. I said, wow. I said, I wonder who in the family has her dedication.
All of
It's something to stop and think about, because as we as descendants of our ancestors, we each pick up something from each one. So you think about the personality traits, and then it makes you go back and say, well, who did I inherit this about myself? Where does my good personality come from? If I like to research, who does that come from? Well, I wonder who in the family inherited Anne's spirit. So Anne is very funny to me. But Jesse's second wife, well, no, let me go back. So in Jesse's interview again with the commissions, the Southern Commissions, he stated he had 20 children. 20 children. That there was 9 children, and then there were 11 more. Well, we've done the research. We haven't found 20. We found close to it, but we haven't found all 20. Now,
There's about 2 different women.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So there was family myth that Corinthia Harris, that's at the Germantown Cemetery, was the daughter of Jesse Harris. She was not. Through his wills and documents and everything else, we've never found that name. Anybody close to it is closest we got was a Cynthia, and we know what happened to her. Cynthia ended up, when Jesse Harris passed away, she was the daughter that inherited the property for Cup Run Memorial Cemetery. So, our Fairfax County map Which year was this overlaid?
That's 1860.
1860. So there's Jesse Harris's 262 acres of property.
Now, Crystal, where's this property coming to Cub Run?
Yes, this is all of Cub Run.
That's all covered.
Yep, this is all of Cub Run. Now, I had it a little clearer, but since we blew it up, it's kind of faded. But John Robinson's 13 acres is there. George Harris, his 13 acres here. He has property here, which it kind of cut. But starting at this peninsula from where Warrenton Road, up at the top, and coming down Bull Run Post Office Road, and then it comes all the way down, and then it comes back around, and Ballsford Road before 66 came around, and that used to run all the way to Manassas. Now, I saw some aerial maps from that area, and there were houses back there. I didn't know that. So that was neat to see that there were some houses in those aerials from, I think it was the 1937.
Yeah.
Yep. So then it comes around, and then it cut off the church, but the Cub Run Primitive Church is around here. And then that property goes back up, and Henry Harris, there is Cub Run Memorial Cemetery, Anthony Harris, Obed Harris, George Harris. It's a lot of Harrises on that map. But 1860. 1860. And it's a lot of this history that's never been told. All this time we've been sitting on history. And I say to the family, hey, look, we need to have a program. We need to do something. Our history is so important. When growing up as a young child, my grandmother used to always tell us, y'all be careful how y'all go out there and act. You don't know how important your family is. Don't be out here shaming the family. We're like, yeah. But by the time you get down the road and you do something, the neighbor then saw you talking to such and such and this one, that, and it gets back. But you didn't get in trouble about 4 times before you even got back to the house because the whole area was family. And I was lucky enough, I grew up on this. I grew up on this property. So, 1860s, this map, you ever get a chance to see it, extends down and it goes into Bull Run Park. So, here is your aerial. Now, earlier I was discussing that the beginning of the churches for the family may have all stemmed out of Bull Run Parks, Bull Run Church. Well, we got a building here, and this is where the family cemetery is that runs up off of Mellor Road, off of Bull Run Post Office Road. Well, the 1937 aerial is showing me some houses. I see a house. This is on Anthony Harris's property, which I thought was interesting. This is the 15 acres that Henry Harris had first purchased. So they started in Cub Run before they ended up further down. When Henry Harris died, 1857, I believe, his property went up for auction. His son Moses Harris purchased that property. So that property stayed. Sad enough that when Obed passed, him and his wife had no children. So the property just went back into the family kitty. Eventually it was sold. So we have the Cub Run Memorial Cemetery. This family cemetery was donated by Jesse Harris and his wife, Jemima Harris. Jemima Harris was Jemima Robinson. Now, if any of you are familiar with the Robinson House, that's up there at the Bull Run, of James Gilman Jim Robinson, that was his daughter, oldest daughter. So this property was donated for the burial of their heirs. This land, before Jesse Harris obtained this portion, he was sharecropping this property from the Carters. And the story is, the little AI story is that someone had passed away, probably his mom, and he needed someplace to bury her. And so it is believed that that was the possible first burial, even though there is not a headstone there for her. But that's what the family stories have been told. Now there are close to 270 graves on this property so far that I've inventoried. That does not mean that how many of them are unmarked. So we have been working with their trustees to help raise money to get that property radar surveyed, so we'll know exactly how many graves we're working with. All right, that's fun. And then we go into Bull Run Park. Isn't Bull Run Park beautiful? Paul, I thought of you when I pulled that picture because I said, I know when you saw it, you know exactly what it is. So Henry Harris had a son named Henry Harris. His son purchased property in Bull Run Park. Now, I have one of his descendants here in front of me now. Her great-grandfather was named Swampy Joe Harris.
Yes.
Because he was down in the swamp. Down there. So, okay. The property was owned by Benjamin Chin, which was Robert Carter III's grandson, which later their property on the other side where Cancer Plantation is became Ben Lomond. Now, I did some research. Where Ben Lomond actually sits is not exactly where the actual plantation house sat. Also, I found out that a lot of these places that were called plantations were actually little porterhouses. So they weren't grand plantations, Cancer and Leo. They just had enough there to, as we saw for Leo, there was 25 people at Leo. Cancer had about 25 people. But during their emancipation, Carter started moving people around because he didn't want to divide the families out. So if he could keep the families together, that's what he did. And so if some of them were in the Shenandoah Valley area, then that's where they wanted to be. Well, some of them, the husbands were freed sometimes before the wives were because the husbands were older. So in one instance, we have Sampson Robinson, who was at Cancer Plantation, and his wife got sent to Aquarius with the children. Well, he got freed in 1792, but she didn't gain her freedom until 1803. Mm-hmm. So here he is, he's up here, and then he's trying to figure out how to get down there to her. Well, eventually he makes it down there to her. But research has led, I love research. I do. I sit up, and my husband can say, I sit up in front of my computer. I work 8 hours, 8 hour a day at work, and I come home and I'm just in the computer. And then you'll hear me, I knew I'd find you. And that's what ended up happening. So, going back to James Gilman Jim Robinson real quick. James Gilman Jim Robinson's mother, Anna, was at Cancer Plantation. We found that because it's in that great deed. In that deed, we also found Sampson Robinson. Well, the family has their way of telling stories, and the facts actually have their way of telling the story. And what we found out was Sampson Robinson was also known as Philip Robinson. And thanks to Cousin Linnell had sent that information to us a while ago, I was able to put those two pieces together. So in putting that together, while Sampson's wife is down Praise, he had an affair with Anna. And so then there was born, we know of one, but there she had 4 children. Well, nobody talks about Gentleman Jim's siblings. Close your mouth. No one talks about his siblings. And so the story goes, oh, well, Gentleman Jim took his name after the tutor. No, his mother was married to a boss. If we search and we go through the records, she'd always been around. The whole time, at every plantation she was at, she was around those Robinsons. Now, when Sampson left, he wrote and went down to the Shenandoah Valleys. He wrote a letter to Robert Carter and asked if he could hire his wife and children, and they could be with him until they were free. Not too many slave owners were there. So, not all people were bad. He had a heart. So, in this deed, Benjamin Chin sold property to the Dowman family. Well, did some research on the Dowman family. They were out of Fredericksburg, Virginia. And I said, okay. So, of course, I had to send my little emails to Debbie Robeson. Debbie, help. Make this make sense. Well, what's outlined in red is the property that the Harrises bought. These are the remaining photos of the Harris family house. That was the house and the barn that were at Bull Run. Thanks to Cousin Dodie. She went through her photos and she said, Crystal, I think. And we went through and we was looking, and there on the back of one of them it said Bull Run. I had the pleasure of sharing that with Paul this June, and he was like,
That house is so similar to James Robinson's house. The only difference is sitting on top of the hill. The one that's on my left-hand side. It looks similar to James Robinson's house.
well, I was going to go.
Okay,
there.
all right.
Okay. So with the, did you have something? So with the construction of a lot of the houses, recent research shows that we know that the Naylors that were in our family were carpenters, architects. We know that most of the houses in our family were built by the Naylors, so they were constructed by the Naylors. I just recently had the opportunity to go through some Naylor research, and I found out where one of our Naylors came from, and that was Lawrence Naylor. Lawrence Naylor was enslaved in, was it Albemarle? I always pronounce it wrong, but he was enslaved there, and the slaves that were all there were from these Naylors that actually came out of Prince George's County, Maryland. And then the one son stretched out, came into Virginia, bought about 200 and some acres of property up that way. It's a little town. I should have wrote it down. But in the process of that, Lawrence Naylor earned money and bought his freedom. Now, also found out that within those Naylors, there were brothers, but Lawrence Naylor's father was white. So they settled in the Cub Run area, right there on that cusp on Bull Run Post Office Road. So coming out of that area, and now we're into the Bull Run Park region where the Harris family lived. Remember, I was going through the little map, and I said, oh, I know where this area is. Here is the pool. We love that pool. That pool means so many things to so many people. And it was the Harris family that donated that property for that pool to be built in 1964. 63. Yep. So from where that house was, the house actually sit right here, like on the corner lot, like right underneath the where that L is, according to the aerial maps. I love maps. Whoever showed me my first map don't know what they taught me. But you can go to the next slide.
Oh, I want to do that. Can I take a picture of that map? I swear.
Yep. I love when I talk to Paul McCray because everything of mine has that drawing on it. And he says, "Where did you get that from? Who did that?" I did that. I did that. Once I went through the land deeds that we had got from Heather when she was at the courthouse. Once I was able to map out where that actually was, I've been drawing it on everything. And if we ever come up with a family symbol for the Harris property, I can just hit your power. You kick it.
You want to just turn it off?
Turn it off and kick it.
There we go.
But if we ever find out, if we ever decide to do a logo for your Harris branch, that is the logo that I have in mind. Okay. Because I think it's fitting. And it's not unique too. Have a little surprise for everyone. While you're waiting, everybody's been sitting for a minute. Anybody want to stand up and stretch? We've been sitting for a while. Yeah, eat. It's going to take us a moment, but we've been sitting. I can get windy, I know. And it's kind of long, so when everybody stretch and be comfortable.
I'll stand so I don't kick things up.
Let them stretch for about 2 minutes.
No, that's.
So she's been standing in one spot, so she wants to stretch.
Just one.
Say hi to my buddy Cheryl.
This your book?
Yes.
Okay.
We covered everything.
This is
I used to talk to her.
So it's like this portion, and then I'm ready to
yeah, we have a lot going on.
Let me give you the first one.
Okay. I'm not gonna print it out.
Yeah.
Before I go on vacation, I can look at it.
This is my grandma.
No.
Because I'm the host.
Kind of both in at the same time. It gets that horrible echo.
Who was the last name? He was from
Battle.
Battle.
So,
I don't know if anybody's been trying to get in.
yeah, I'm just gonna check the Zoom.
I don't have it in my email.
Okay.
I haven't made a hard copy.
Okay. Let's make a hard. I'm off for 2 weeks. I'm gonna do 2 weeks. Very good.
Folks, we're just taking a brief intermission.
One of the library front desk workers called me out, said there were too many people in the room. And I
That's
said,
what I was afraid of. Yeah.
I can't really throw people out. But we didn't have, we kind of disagreed on that.
We were just on the edge. But yeah, no, I didn't.
I just want everybody to stretch.
We're well over 15 here, though.
I was sitting for a minute, so.
when she came in, I was thinking,
Exactly.
people have been continuing to arrive, so.
Celebration to see Charles came in. I was sitting down.
Yeah, I've been
Okay. All right, everybody want to, if we can continue our, finish the program, please. We just, we'll have a chance to socialize it at the end. We can wrap up by, okay. All right, so if everyone can just resume.
Because we started, let's start with because I was trying to figure out how to spell this space.
Oh, well, yeah, we just, okay. All right, everyone. So,
This is the logo picture. The logo picture is the other one that's correct. Which one is, do you see is the logo picture?
You'll see it on the next slide.
Oh, okay, all right.
Well, she can go back one.
Was it the one with the pool? And okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes, this one.
picture.
But the picture that's gonna come after this one is the one that actually came off of the deed and I actually withdrew it. So you're gonna see that one. All right. So this one, again, our aerial maps. Aerial maps. It is like the greatest.
1937.
1937. So 1937, we got houses. This little dot right here is what is now known as the Harris Family Cemetery. So, remember I was talking about that road. I kept saying that road went somewhere else before y'all got a hold to it. That road came right out of their driveway. They drove past that cemetery every time they left out. And so the road went behind the cemetery and then cut down and went. And thanks to Debbie Robinson, thanks to Maddie McCoy, oh, I missed him so much. I know, but how we used to get on there and research, oh my goodness. And I can't forget Shirley. That was the group. The four of us, plus Mary Lipson. And we would sit down and we would talk, and every time you would say Jesse Harris, Maddie's face just remained. Heather Bollinger's face just radiated. And I said, wow. I said, they really know our history. And I said, you know what? We should be ashamed of ourselves because this is our family. And they know more about our family than we do. And I said, the daughter said, we got to change that. Said that to Linnell, said, we got to change that. As a family in a unit, we need to do something that's going to let our family be known. Now, I've been trying to get to a Centerville Day for almost 5 years. But the other program that I do for Westmoreland County, we're going to make it. Because this needs to get done. This story needs to get told. So, with that property, this is the map. This came out of the deed for 1890. And I redrew it because before it just had the lot numbers. It didn't say who owned what. So, we know that Robert Harris was a cousin. He owned property on the outside. He owned the property over here. But Robert Harris also owned the property up here. This Jesse and Obed are not the same Jesse and Obed. Here we go with the renaming of family ancestors. I was confused because I was like, wait a minute. Well, Henry Harris also had children named, out of all of his children were named Jesse and Obed. I said, okay. And so then there was Moses. Well, Moses Harris has an interesting line, and we learned through research that when the family would get into issues with trying to keep their taxes paid, before the property would go up for auction, they would issue the deed to someone else. And it would normally be a trusted white family that lived close to them. And then later you see the property go back to their name. And then it did it again. And I said, wow. And then me and Dodie was sitting on a phone call for like almost 10 hours, going through all of this. I had those 10-hour crash sessions. So if anybody wants to research, I am up. But we went back and forth and we said, wait a minute. How did they? And then when Paul McCray contacted us and he said they were doing the research, they said, well, the property was sold. They didn't own it for that much longer in 1922 and it went such and such. But then we went back and found out that they owned it again. And I was like, okay. So they're within a community of not only freed African Americans, but you also had the white families around them that they built relationships with that were willing to help them out. Yeah. And in communities, that's great to see because you know who your neighbors are. Nowadays, you probably don't need to know who your neighbors are to live beside you. They come out there, park the car in the way and everything else. And you're more irritated with them than you are anything else. And instead of just extending the right hand of fellowship to every person that we meet, our neighbors are our strangers. And we're not there for each other anymore. So that's something that we can take with us and make sure that we work on. Because us growing up, if we walked past your house and you were outside and we didn't speak, oh my, we would get a phone call. They would call our parents. So-and-so walked past our house and did not speak. And that's not how we were raised. So I always try to make sure I speak to people. I speak to people all day long. Hi, you know. I'm scared of some people because it just looked like once you, and I think the reason that a lot of people don't speak when they pass people is because you know you're going to end up with that one that's going to want to start a conversation. You ain't going to be able to get away from it. Let's just be honest. I think that's why a lot of people stop speaking to each other. But you never know what's on a person's mind when they wake up in the evening. They may have woke up and they wanted to die. They may be going through some kind of abuse that you know nothing about. You may save a person's life just by speaking to them. So that's something that I want you all to take with you everywhere you go, because we never know. You know, person walks into a gas station and the person sitting there that's behind the counter, hey, welcome to Fastco. Yeah. We're trained that when they come in, to look at the little strip, see how tall they are, and pay attention to them when they come in case they decide to rob the place. The right introduction of talking to a person they walk through the door may change a person's mind. It may save somebody's life. But off track, let's go back. But that did get put on my heart, so I was told to say that. But with Moses Harris, as I said, we found that his property went up for auction. And this beautiful advertisement was put in the paper. So 62.5 acres, more or less, which belonged to Moses Harris and J.R. Harris. Exactly, research. The southeast from Bull Run Post Office. This land and buildings and other improvements turned one half of the purchase money cash and resident in 12 months from the day of sale interest. So this was from the J.M. Love and R.W. Moore. But I thought this was neat. Thought this was neat to have. So as families start to get older, the South just did not settle well with a lot of the Harrises that were in the Bull Run area. One, it was swamp. Right? They couldn't really farm it like they wanted to. And if anyone is a Bible scholar, they would understand that within the Bible it says you grow your lands for 7 years, you let them rest for 7 years. Well, the lands had to settle. They couldn't find anything. It was not going. So certain family members started moving away and they started going to Ohio. Henry Harris's family and children started migrating to Ohio. Cleveland. Now, through those generations, this one little parcel of property just hung in there. And it got passed down. And it was passed down. And it was passed down somewhere. And then it went to Garnetta, Leroy, and yep, so it went to them. We've got deeds dating back to when Park Service came in and said, hey, go, this is what we would like to do. What do you think? And we've got an actual deed record where this property was donated solely to the Park Service for the pool to be built. It wasn't much. What was it? It was pennies on it all. It was not much at all. But acres. What did that say? It was like 16. 16. Let's see, 13 bonds. And did you? But Park Service came and they built the pool. I'm a 70s kid. I was born in 72. But I remember in a early childhood memory, and I'm talking about a real early childhood. How I remember this, I have no idea. But my mom used to own one of those big Lincolns, real big black Lincolns. And I was jumping around in the back of the car. Why child seats were made of plastic and metal back then, I have no idea. But I was jumping around the back seat and I remember seeing the pool. And that's a memory that I've always had. And it was like gravel on the ground and there was no fence. It was just wide open in the woods. And I remember that. And here are your Harris descendants from that property. So you have William H. Harris, you have Leroy Battle, his wife Alva, Robert Walker, Garnetta Walker. Now these are all descendants of the Harrises that they married into. Who was the Walker? What was his last name? Walker. And Walker's husband, Robert Walker. Okay, Robert Walker. He's in the back. Right. Yeah. Yep. So those. So do you want to tell? That's my mother. So do you want to tell? Okay. One over here, Leroy Battle. That's my uncle, great uncle. His wife, Eva.
my uncle Robert, my mother with the long braid, her mother and dad is in the back. It's my great aunt, Kate, who she is buried at the cemetery.
Which cemetery?
Cub Run.
Cub Run
Yeah,
Memorial.
Cub Run Memorial. Okay, with, it's an unmarked grave, because I know, because I went to a funeral and I just kidding. Oh, yeah.
And then in
My
your color,
grandfather in the back.
yeah, and then in your color photo you have,
That's them, Ann Walker, my grandmother, my aunt, and my uncle. That's them. That's,
So it's the war battle. Yeah.
yeah, there's only two children from Lucy Battle. Yeah.
this is William Henry Harris.
Great uncle. But he a great uncle.
He's a great uncle.
Great
Yep.
uncle.
Yep.
Yes, he is.
So we had some issues when she first found that photo. On the back of it, it said COL. So we were thinking Colonel, not color. So when we took it up to Bullrun Park, Bullrun Battlefield, that's when we found out that it was colored troops, not.
Yeah.
So we thought that was interesting. So you can change over. All right. So now we're going to talk about the Bull Run Church and the Harris Family Cemetery. And for those of you that don't know him, you will know who he is and you will love him dearly. Paul, would you please? Thank you. Are you on? Oh, you're on.
Hi, I'm Paul Gilbert. I'm the recently retired executive director of Noble Parks. And Bull Run was the first park in the Noble Park system that was brought in 1859. And I have to say, over the last few years, like getting to know Crystal and the Harris family has been like such an amazing joy. So she has covered a lot of that history, but I'll tell you some pieces of it. One, while she knew the story, I think the general public didn't know this emancipation that was the largest emancipation prior to the Civil War in the 1790s. It really, like, as we're celebrating the 250th anniversary of America, it was of that time. You know, the Revolutionary War ended in 1781. So 1792, it's like 11 years later, and you know, Robert Carter III knew George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. Like he was, you know, he was hanging out with all those guys. So, you know, he certainly knew about all people are created equal, and he took it apart and his religious beliefs and the energy of the revolutionary time. Like, who took it seriously? But what if that had been the norm? That would have been amazing. Anyway, at Bull Run, the Harris family used to come and have lunch at the park, and they had told park staff that area over there was our family cemetery. So we didn't know much history, but we just knew there was this Harris family, and they said that was their cemetery. And it's an area that has, it's not obviously a cemetery. There are a few uncut stones, but no headstones that you would think about. You know, nothing that has a name or date carved in it. And the handful of stones, and it really aren't very many, they could just be field stones. Like it's very innocuous. But we got 2 different scout troops came out and cleared the area and put up a little sign that said Harris Family Cemetery. But that was all we really knew. You know, and there are family cemeteries everywhere because we're farms. So Crystal mentioned Paul McCrae, who is our historian, and Paul is a great uncoverer of history, just like Crystal. You know, you find a thread and you keep pulling it. So he started doing research because he's like, there was that Harris family cemetery. We don't know much about it. Started doing research and connected with you, and I remember during that time that you would call me every week or two and say, "Hey, I discovered this," and it would be, a piece of what Chris has just told you about. And then he'd follow it up later. And it took a while before the whole story came together about this remarkable emancipation. Like that's the big story. That's a story of national significance and happened right here. This should be in history books. This should be talked about all the time. Like we should all be proud that we live in learning this remarkable piece of history happened. Lots of unfortunate things happened. A good thing happened here for all the right reasons. So we started working with the Harris family and did further research and developed interpretive signs, and opened it with the Juneteenth celebration with interpretive signs at the pool. So if you want to visit this place, you go to the pool, and right on the left side of the pool are some signs that talk about it. Yeah, right there. I don't know who that guy is. Up to no good, I would guess. Anyway, you follow the trail, the yellow mark to take you back. Because the cemetery is in a kind of a weird place, kind of deep in the park. The park's 1508. But then you get back to the cemetery, and it was initially cleared out, and then we had volunteers that helped us clear it out even further. And so we did 2 rounds of ground penetrating radar because, like I said, there's really that does not look like a cemetery. There's a stone there, the stone there. There are indentations that you can tell, but not all the graves have indentations. So in the second round of ground penetrating radar, we discovered a total of 102 graves. And the cemetery is connected to the church, and our records show that the church was active from about 1770 to somewhere around 1820, 1825 is kind of the last record, and it just kind of drops off the radar. So during that period of time, 102 people were buried there. There are infant graves in there. And one of the interesting things about this story, I think, is the lack of headstones. You might think it is because of economics, but it's not. So it's because of religious beliefs. So Robert Hardin III, who was certainly one of the richest people in all the Americas at the time, he was buried, not here, but another place, without a gravestone. He buried his first son, died, and he buried him in this cemetery, which was largely for enslaved, without a headstone. So this is a billionaire in today's dollars who thought that humility was the most important thing. And so my guess is the few headstones that are there probably came several generations later, but it was all about humility. So we're probably not going to put headstones out there across the because that was not the intent. It was a very intentional thing to be humble. I mean, when you're that wealthy and you make that decision, that's important. The other interesting thing is when this church was started in the 1770s, it was integrated from day one. So there were white and black people that were worshiping at the Bull Run Meeting House, is what it was called. And what we have there today, we've mapped out all of the graves, and there's an area right on what was a major road that's a rectangle that's relatively flat, that there are no graves. And I think it's pretty obvious. And we also have old maps that show a church there, shows the cross. So it seems pretty obvious that was the church, but we've had some archaeologists look at it. There were no stone foundation. It was probably a completely wood structure. So it's pretty much all gone. We did find a number of nails that we were able to take to a nail expert, and they were pre-1800 nails. They were handmade nails by a blacksmith, which dates up to that time, and they were at the site where we think the church was. We also found a few Civil War era relics there. Thing to make lead bullets, a razor for shaving. It's likely if it was a church in 1820 or 25 that it was still a roof and a structure by the Civil War. It's very close to the battlefield. Very likely that it was used as a hospital for a day or two. But anyway, that's the story. And the great thing was when we had the first celebration of this, amazing story of the emancipation. Crystal brought with her the deed from 1963, which was a piece of story we didn't. So it goes to the point that history is always being discovered and rediscovered. So in 1963, Bull Run is a floodplain. So wherever they go, they make the building intentionally there because it's the only place that's out of the floodplain. Because it's 1,500 acres, most of you can't go there. So the Harris family gave Nova Parks that property, which had a house on it, because it was above the floodplain. You could build something on it, specifically to build an integrated pool. And if you think about it, in 1963, we don't think about pool as a civil rights thing today. But in 1963, it definitely was. And in Virginia, there was massive resistance. And the year it opened in the late 60s, it's the same year that the public pool in Leesburg closed because they didn't want to do it. So this is not ancient history. This is the 1960s. And I think it's interesting because all the kids that come to the pool today and adults and everyone else, no one would realize that was once a civil rights thing. And when it opened, it was the largest public pool in Virginia. And it was open from day one as an integrated pool. In a time when that was a thing, when that was there were the executive director of Nova Parks at that time was passed. I knew for many years tell me stories, and he talked about getting nasty letters from people about it. But what a beautiful gift that Harris family gave that land specifically for a pool that everyone could enjoy. It's amazing. And this story, this history of the largest emancipation in the United States prior to the Civil War, that is a huge story. So thank you for doing all this research, because as good of a researcher as Paul McRae is, like when he connected with you, all of a sudden all the pieces it's like I found the treasure trove of all it up. So now we have these stories. I think it's our job to tell those and to let people know what happened. This is a beautiful example of what should have happened. Yeah. Thanks.
Share a little piece of history about Cleveland.
Cool.
And maybe why the Harrises were drawn up to that city. I am a Cleveland girl myself, who grew up in the suburb outside of town. William Ganson Rowe, who's just a gentleman, has kind of written the definitive book about the early days in Cleveland. There's a piece there where he talks about how well connected, respected, and revered white people, black people were. Before the Civil War, and even back to the early 1800s. And so what would happen periodically, because Cleveland wasn't huge until the industrial boom kicked in, but there was a looking out for one another. There was a faith foundation that both cultures truly, respected. The movie 12 Years a Slave, of course, is a true story that happened not once, but many times. And so when it became known in Cleveland that someone was scooting around a couple couple of fellas looking for somebody to, the church bells would ring, and that was a message to everybody that the Black people should just hide for a while. And the white people, it was a beautiful way of honoring that very unfortunate reality. And when everyone was sure that those fellows were gone, the church bells were ringing. Wow. So of course the Harrises ended up in Oakland. They would have been welcome.
So running through, there was so far I have found, which I believe are 10 family members that are buried there. You can go through those. So the first one that I found on the death certificate, it stated that Moses Harris, born buried cemetery. Next one. All right. And her husband was Henry Harris, and she's buried at her death certificate says she's buried at Bull Run Cemetery. Edward, Father Levi, Kate, buried at Bull Run Cemetery. But then somebody scratched it out. So, but I know that's weird. Next one. All right, Felicia, Susan, Jesse, and his first wife, Susanna. Second, right. Yep, Jesse and first wife, and she's buried at the cemetery. Next one, Leticia.
Was Felicia sister to?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we probably should fill it out first.
Yeah. The first says Bull Run. Next one, Fairfax Duncan. The son of Kane Duncan. So now the Duncans have integrated into the Fairfax County. And there's Bull Run again. The next one. Oh yeah, born in the Yules. Then you have the Beverleys. And your Beverleys are coming also that way out of Clifton. And so this marriage and a couple other marriages, mother's maiden name was Sarah Harris. There you go. Yeah. All right, the next one. So Ezekiel, parents unknown. Well, it says parents unknown, but Susan Harris and Harrison Beverly, again, Clifton family, buried at Bull Run. The next one, baby. The other Moses Harris. This one, I think, may be a mistake, or they were buried at the turn, 1960. That may be the last grave. Maybe. They were old. Yeah. Yeah. All right. William Carter, Black brother Billy, Will, or Baptist Billy. So, as I said, he was the son of Robert Carter Jr., Mary Gumby Harrison, or Mary Harris. She has so many last names, we just don't know which way to actually point her in, but it's possible that he was buried there because there's no other records for him after before his death. But we do know that the rest of his family did migrate to Ohio. I recently did DNA tests, and we have family that match, and we have met two of those ancestors, and one comes from West Virginia, the other one comes from Ohio every year to the On Hallowed Ground in Westmoreland County. The next one.
Any Jacksons?
The Jacksons
From the ones that own the property that was now Grove Center?
So the Jacksons that married into the Harris family are the children of the children, and then come around to Joseph Van Ness Harris. Then that's where those Jacksons come in. I have not touched their side. They get
Got stories for you.
they get very
Yeah.
about their history. It's some things happen.
Well, I can tell you part of what happened. Okay, the Jeremiah Jackson story. And can I do this? I'm sorry. Okay, we got. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you.
We just, the room's gonna explode.
All right. George and Anthony. George Harris, his wife Judy, owned that property down right there on that corner where we saw it in the map. So when George died, Anthony Harris purchased the property of his in-laws, which were also his cousins. But what I find interesting in his will,
I see a mailer.
yeah,
I see off the mailer.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening was when Anthony Harris died, he left part of his property to his daughter, Susan Richardson, and all the land on the east side of the road from Bull Run Post Office to Balls Ford Road, joining the Cub Run church lot. What I find the best part about this is it says, as long as the church shall stand, we shall have a church. Well, our church was falling down. And we reached out for help. And within the families, we could not. We reached out to the community, and I'm thankful for those from Fairfax County, my friends and adopted family that donated to help us keep this church alive because it was about to fall down. Spanish community came in and they said, "Oh, we can help." They donated close to $155,000 worth of material to save that church from falling down. Because as long as that church stands, we have it. If it falls down, it goes to the Anthony Harris heirs. And if the heirs get it and there's no church, they can't rebuild. But the trustees of the church will always own the cemetery. And here we go. The establishment of the Cub Run Primitive Baptist Church, established in the primitive church community in 1854. And the building is estimated at 1929. So Anthony Harris donated a portion of this property for the church to be built. And they were either gathering before that at the Bull Run Meeting House and at family members' homes. There's a list of where they integrated the first trustees for that church, and that was in 1912. 1912. So from what our understanding is, there was another church on that lot. It burnt down and they rebuilt the structure that we know of today. We had a thermal radar scan done of the cemetery. This is the mapping that I did. Didn't I do a pretty job?
You did a wonderful job.
So even though now we have place markers in the ground, this just gives you an idea. So there are actually 25 graves, and we've been able to identify 15. 15. We've been able to identify 15 of those names by death certificate, and eventually we will raise money to have the sign put up to identify those. Hopefully we can get this story.
Yeah.
It says 17 names down the bottom, my bad. So Anthony B. Harris, his brother Charles Harris. Now, those of you who are familiar with Fairfax County Schools may have heard the name Charles P. Harris before, because Charles P. Harris went down to the Freemansboro, applied for money to have the Rock Hill School built. Now, about the school, it's time to learn. Great stuff going here, of course. With the school in place, there's a little structure. This was the original document dated in, what year is that? 1868. 1868. We got a black school in Fairfax County. Guess what Fairfax County did? They named the area the Harris District. Very interesting. So now, from there, we are building a road. So the Harris family in Fairfax County went down to petition for a road to be built because they could not get out on the other side to get to Manassas City. So you see the names of Anthony, Elijah, John, William H., Lizzie, John Farr, Obed, F.L. Butler, Sarah, Anthony, David Skillman. They went down, signed this paper. They donated and sold property in 1890. Let's see, court rule 1890 to have the rest of Compton Road built, the stretch on around to Centerville. Oh, was that Centerville Road? So I believe in petition that that road should be named Harris Road. And then around the bend came Mount Olive. So now that they can get on that side, they're able to build another church. So established in 1898, Mount Olive Church was formerly known as Montezuma Baptist Church. The land was donated by Samuel and Emma Jane Harris, which I am proud to say those are my great-great-grandparents on my mother's father's mother's side. So I am Harris Gaskins, but I'm Harris 6 times related to myself. Which I thought was great. Let's see the next one. So here is the original deed that Emma Harris had written out for the sale of that property be donated to the Mount Olive Baptist Church. The sad part is that there is a cornerstone for this church. Unfortunately, it sits on the old church site, which sits behind that property in the woods. Now, I used to go in the woods and just walk straight to it. It's been years. I haven't been back in there. I should have grabbed that big heavy stone before, but we can get together and try to get that pulled out of there for them. All righty. So that comes to the end of what I have. Questions and answers. Wait. That's a lot. I know. I'm sorry. Any questions?
I just want to say thank you. I am a descendant of the Naylor family, and I didn't know. I'm still learning about the Naylors, but I didn't know the little tidbit you shared about their connection to Center Ridge and Manassas. But we know they started out in Manassas in Centerville first, and then they went with their enslaver to Manassas, so the same family. So thank you for giving me a little bit of insight about that.
Well, remember when I posted and I said I had a surprise, but I didn't want to let that out yet until. Gotcha.
And my name is Al Shank. I came here the year that Crystal was born. And I married into the family Gaskins.
Oh.
And she's resting at Arlington Cemetery because I was military. But I was just up at Cub Run Memorial Gardens today because we're putting out wreaths for our veterans. And thank you so much for the list. I did not realize how many veterans were born buried in that cemetery. But this has been very informative for me. And I've got and there's more I need.
You have my number. It's on the back.
Yes.
Stay in touch
Because
I don't even see you.
all of a sudden I'm family.
You've always been family.
When I came here, everybody said, "You kidding all these people?" I said, Harris's, Henderson's, Naylor's, Gaskins, Robinson's, all.
You got to do everybody.
Yeah, a bit all. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right.
I want to take a picture before we go.
Gotcha. Somebody else had a question?
It's not a question. I just have to maybe take 2 minutes to tell the Jeremiah Jackson story. He was living in the area we know as Center. He had a white teacher who was from Vermont. This is pre-Civil War. He did so well as a student when she went back to Vermont. She basically gave him the land that extends from Burke Center Parkway to 123 to Zion, all the way back up to Guinea and back up to Burke Center Parkway. He and Martha had 11 children. They were both, at that time, the verbiage would have been mulatto. And the 11 children all turned out different colors. And Martha was thrilled about that. Absolutely thrilled about that because she believed that was God speaking to the family that everyone is connected.
Yeah.
So that's the back.
Thank you.
You had a question?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, did you go to Mount Pleasant?
I don't.
Oh, okay.
But you do look familiar.
No,
Manassas,
no, yeah.
Vienna.
Okay.
Oh, your first rep is Vienna.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
the Harrisons donated land for that church.
Much more than I know.
From the history commission.
Sorry for the.
Learn some
She's a
things.
Delta.
It's very good. And we have
Esther. Esther.
thank you for coming and speaking to us today.
Probably,
It's a nice,
probably. She's very social.
historic center.
Oh, thank you. Hi, everybody. But you gotta be special. Oh, you have been special. I have really enjoyed emailing back and forth with you. And meeting you has just been wonderful.
Yes,
Thank you
likewise.
so much.
Have the room for about 8 more minutes.
So we can end the recording at least.
And unless, Julia, do you have any questions? You can unmute yourself.
Oh. Well, it's in the photo. There we go. This is a good.
You're Presbyterian, right? Or the Jeremiah Jackson Street. Nobody knew that.
And then.
And so we can send it to you?
Sure.
Okay, great.
Thank you.